This is my 17th year as a New Orleanian. And basically I've had several roles when it comes to pre-K through 12 education. Probably the most visible role I had was to chair the community-wide effort after Katrina to reimagine and rebuild the public school system. And that was one of the subcommittees of the Bring New Orleans Back Commission. So I did that for about a year and a half. And when that task was finished, we actually created what was then the Institute for Public Education Initiatives at Tulane University. It subsequently got named for me as the Cowen Institute. And really for the last 7 years, the Cowen Institute has played, I think, a major role in chronicling what's been happening in public education in New Orleans and advocating for reform and change, all with the idea of how do we enhance student achievement and student success. Yeah, a remarkable transformation, I think unlike anything we've probably seen in the United States. I think what happened after Katrina, and it really started before Katrina, was reimagining what public education could be here. And we went from a school system to a system of schools, where we really began to decentralize decision-making down to the school level and gave more autonomy to individual schools as well as accountability. We use the vehicle of the charter mechanism to do this, and that seems to have been a successful model. You can have autonomy without having charter schools, but I think charter schools gave it structure that it needed. So what we've seen is that we've really decentralized decision-making down to the school level. We've given schools more independence through the charter mechanism, but we've also invested very heavily in human talent, because charter schools without appropriate human talent and principals and teachers simply won't work. But we've done a great investment there as well. We've also, I think, invested in the community over time in wraparound services for students. We've learned an awful lot that a student really can't learn and develop unless all of their needs are attended to. So we're now developing those kinds of services in our community. Some are associated with schools. We're attending to the total needs of an individual, not just what happens in school itself. I think the whole transformation happened because of Katrina. It would have never happened without it. It's not that people didn't have the will and desire to see improvement in the public school system, but transformation was not going to happen absent some bona fide crisis. Unfortunately, that took the form of Katrina. So my feeling is that we would be nowhere near where we are today if it hadn't been for Katrina. It's one of the silver linings, quite honestly, of that storm. You know, I think, first of all, I think people focus too much about the charter schools. And when I want them not to focus on charter schools per se, but the fact is we want to give autonomy to school leaders and at the same time hold them accountable. So I think this notion of autonomy and putting more focus on what's happening in the school rather than investing dollars in the office of the school system is something that I would want them to know. The second thing is I think I would also want them to know that we're investing very heavily in human talent, that you can't have a successful school without having a successful school leader and very dedicated teachers in it. And I think that investment is so critical. The third thing I think I would want them to know is that this is still a work in progress. This is not a fully finished product. We can't declare victory yet in New Orleans, and we won't for a generation, quite honestly. I think when we started this great journey after Katrina, and when I say started, it started before Katrina, but it really got to scale after Katrina. I think all of us believe it will be a generation before we know how successful this really will be. So this is a work in progress. If you look at our schools now, we've certainly elevated our performance within the state. You know, we were at the very bottom, if not the bottom, the very bottom of state performance here in Louisiana. We're now up at around the median. And that change is very positive, but that still only makes us, you know, at best an average school system. And I think what we have to strive for here to be much more than just average. We really want to have a model educational system here for the 21st century, one that others around the country would want to replicate, at least the outcomes. They may not want the model per se, but the outcomes. And I think that's what we're all striving for. You know, what I hope is we started this journey by saying we're helping students prepare for college or career readiness, one or both. And until we make sure that every single student, regardless of where they grow up, where they live, have access to a really high quality education. so that we can close the gaps between the haves and the have-nots, and education is one way to do it. So what I'm hoping is that every single student, no matter what zip code they live in, have access to a high-quality school and have the opportunity for a great career or college education if that's what they choose. And I think if we can be successful in that, we'll have the kind of school system or system of schools that we want in New Orleans. You know, I would say that I've been very proud to have Tulane University, the Cowen Institute, play a small role in this. You know, you don't go through the kind of transformation we've gone through without a lot of people working on the issue collaboratively. And in the beginning, it was a little bit chaotic, but over time, there's been a lot more collaboration, and that collaboration, I think, has been to the benefit of young people, and I think that will continue to evolve over time. So one of the things that may come out of this grand experiment here is you know, how powerful collaboration and maybe even collective impact can be in really transforming a public school system. And if we do that, it's not only going to make for a better education in life and hope for young people, but I think it's going to transform the entire community in very powerful ways. Because I think the future of our city is dependent on the quality of the public school system. If it does not thrive, this city will not thrive. And if we can really develop a model public education system, I think that New Orleans, already an iconic city, will become iconic not just for a good place to come and have fun, but for the quality of life and the quality of education we provide here.